Hello, everyone. This is your Quiz 1 review covering chapters 5, 9, and 10. Quiz 1 opens on Thursday, February 8th at 6 a.m. and will close on Friday, February 9th at 11:59 p.m. You will have 24 hours or a little more than 24 hours to actually have pretty close to 30 hours to log on and take the quiz. You're allowed 1 hour to complete 25 multiple choice questions, and there will also be one extra credit question to give you extra points towards your score. So let's get started. Did the pandemic teach you anything about the influence of relationships? Moreover, do the people I hang around influence good or bad habits? The process by which friends, friends of friends, acquaintances, and others in our social circle influence our behavior and health positively and negatively is referred to as social contagion. Acts of helping or giving to others without thought of self-benefit. We're talking about altruism. The English poet John Donne stated, "No man is an island." This implies that no one can survive alone. When someone donates their time and talents without the expectation of acknowledgement is another way of defining altruism. Okay. Deliberate, repeated, and hostile actions that use information and communication technologies, including online web pages and text messages, to harm others utilizing intimidation, control, manipulation, false accusations, or humiliation. We're talking about cyberbullying. A form of cyberbullying that uses online sites like Twitter or email messages and social media to harm victims and try to damage their reputation or turn others against them may include false accusations, threats, identity theft, damage to data or equipment, or the solicitation of minors for sex. And we're talking about cyber stalking. Cyberbullying uses digital media, of course. But what I want you to remember is that cyber stalking is most often exhibited in the context of ex-partner relationships. And most perpetrators are male and victims are females. And lastly, cyberbullying and cyberstalking can be criminal offenses punishable by imprisonment. Sharing personal information and experiences with another that he or she would not otherwise discover, or self-disclosure involving risk and vulnerability. We're talking about self-disclosure. Social networking has transformed the issues of privacy and disclosure. Many people go online and divulge personal information to strangers rather than trusted friends or family. Remember, the things we reveal can be damaging for years to come. A Latin term that means within. Another way Or a way of defining it is, it's a state of closeness between two people that's characterized by the desire and ability to share one's innermost thoughts and feelings, verbally or non-verbally. We're talking about intimacy. Intimacy benefits college-age students since closeness helps ward off depression and supports feelings of belongingness. Living together is more common today than in past generations. 59% of couples cohabitate or live together without marriage versus 53% who actually marry. Cohabitating couples can register as domestic partners in some states. Reasons couples choose to cohabitate include economics, social acceptance, more time together, and it's a way of testing your relationship. It's also an alternative, or some might call a prelude to marriage, right? Governmentally, socially, or religiously recognized marriage in which two people of the same sex live together as a family. We're talking about same-sex marriage. In a landmark decision in June 2015, the US Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution guaranteed a right to marriage for all Americans, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender. Of same-sex couples, 58% tend to marry, while 42% remain unmarried. Same-sex couples account for anywhere from 2 to 7% of all US marriages, and that number continues to increase. Families are formed when one or both partners bringing children from a previous union to the new marriage. And we're talking about blended families. The definition of a nuclear family continues to evolve and diversify. What remains consistent, however, is that young parents find a way to complete college. Being a parent is not a disqualifier, and Chabot College has childcare resources to support you in attending class. So that's a great thing that I like to share with students. Okay, moving to the next chapter. The behaviors, instincts, and attitudes associated with being sexual describe sexuality. Sexuality is an integral part of who we are, how we see ourselves, and how we relate to others. The expression of both masculine and feminine traits is referred to as androgyny. Androgyny can be positive and can be negative. Positively androgynous people get the best of both, such as feminine compassion and masculine independence. A person who's considered negatively androgynous gets the worst of both. For example, maybe female dependency and masculine assertiveness. All right, moving on. A small erectile structure on the female corresponding to the penis in the male, we are talking about the clitoris. Of the external human female genitalia, the role of the clitoris is simply for pleasure. Okay, moving on to the next slide. The female sex organs that produce egg cells, estrogen, and progesterone are the ovaries. Of the internal female genitalia, the role of the ovaries is vital to a female's youth and reproductive health. The ovaries are about the size and shape of an almond, and these structures lie on either side of the uterus. All right, I wanted to show you the two structures that we just talked about, the clitoris as well as the ovaries. Starting with the illustration A, you can see that of the external genitalia, you have the mons pubis, you have both sets of labia, you have the clitoris, which sits kind of at the apex of the labia minora. And then you have your vaginal opening. Below that, you have your perineum and the anus. And those structures collectively make up the external reproductive structures. Down below in the illustration, you also have all of the internal structures that are labeled, but the most important for your quiz is the ovaries. You can see that the ovary has fallopian tubes or the oviduct that extends from the ovary. And I would love for you to read more about both the external and the internal structures of the female genitalia to get a more complete understanding of these structures and how they work. All right, moving on. Painful menstruation. We're talking about dysmenorrhea. Dysmenorrhea affects approximately 1/2 of all menstruating women, which is an overproduction of prostaglandins or a group of lipids with hormone-like actions that respond to uterine pain. And it's the body's attempt to correct the problem that actually creates more of that action. So yeah, the body trying to fight the pain actually creates more pain. So it's a difficult situation for the women that do suffer with this. Moving on. The male sex organ that produces sperm and testosterone, that is the testes. Of the internal human male genitalia, the testes are housed inside the scrotum, and these structures produce testosterone and sperm. The portion of the male duct system in which immature sperm cells mature, we're talking about the epididymis. Of the internal human male genitalia, the epididymis is a collection of coiled tubes adjacent to each testis, and the male ejaculate is stored until ejaculation. So that's the role of the epididymis. All right. Here we have both the external and the internal structures of the male reproductive system. Again, for your quiz, it's important to know about the testes, which are housed inside the scrotum on the external genitalia, and as well learn about the location and what the epididymis actually does. Okay. Moving on. But just like the female genitalia, it's important to learn about all of these structures and know how each of them work. Having a gender identity opposite of one's biological sex, that is transgender. Members of the trans community include trans youth, transsexuals, trans women, which are M to F, and trans men, or F to M. The term trans is more inclusive and covers those who identify as non-binary as well as genderless. The merging of sperm and ovum describes conception. Conception is the process that affects or permits conception or involves spermatogenesis. A single male ejaculate may contain 500 million sperm. Sperm journey through the vagina, the uterus, and up one or both the fallopian tubes in pursuit of one ripe ovum. Females are born with a life supply of anywhere from 300 to 500 eggs. Once she reaches puberty, a mature egg is released during ovulation and lives for 24 to 36 hours. Afterwards, it is either fertilized by sperm or it disintegrates into the uterine lining and is released or sloughed off, which is referred to as menstruation. The fusion of sperm plus egg nucleus describes fertilization. The zygote travels down the fallopian tubes, dividing and forming a tiny clump of cells called a blastocyst. After about a week, the blastocyst burrows into the endometrium, a process called implantation. The initial stage of development for a multicellular organism, we're talking about an embryo. When the blastocyst implants into the uterine lining, it becomes an embryo. The embryonic period lasts from the 2nd to the 8th week of pregnancy. At 9 weeks, the embryo becomes a fetus. A latex or polyurethane sheath worn over the penis during sexual acts to prevent conception and the transmission of disease. The female condom lines the walls of the vagina. Of course, I'm talking about the condom. And what I'd like to share with you is that the condom is also referred to as a barrier contraceptive, and barrier contraceptives are most effective when they're used along with some sort of spermicide. So oftentimes they have spermicide that might be added to it, but if it's not, you might want to use to buy some to use, but it protects against HIV infection and other STIs. Wearing condoms does not detract from a person's sexual experience, and it is a common practice among heterosexuals as well as homosexuals. It's cheap and convenient. It has no prescription, and it lowers the risk of pelvic inflammatory disease for women. Male condoms are more favorable than female condoms, but protecting oneself is, I'm sure everyone is in favor of that. Moving on. Okay, so here are 2 different illustrations of inserting or putting on a condom. For a female condom, you can see that it is inserted inside of the woman, and it must cover the opening of the uterus. So it kind of sits like a diaphragm that has an extension on it. It almost sits like that. And there is an opening at the opposite end that well, it kind of anchors so it can stay in place in both inside as well as outside. It's a little more cumbersome than a male condom, but they are effective. For a male condom, you can see that first the condom should sit up kind of like a hat that is rolled up. So the edges should turn up. You roll it down the shaft, you pinch the tip, leaving at least a half an inch to catch the ejaculate. Yeah, that's how you use both a female and a male condom. All right, here are quite a few birth control methods. And for your quiz, you should know about effective family planning methods and you should learn a little bit about the ones that you're most interested in. Okay, here gives you some information about effectiveness and usage and the different categories and what the benefits of each one is. And that decision, of course, is yours, which one you choose to as your method. I don't know why I'm stammering over this. In any case, I'm going to move on. A type of oral contraceptive pill, usually taken within 72 hours after intercourse, that can prevent unintended pregnancy after unprotected intercourse or the failure of another form of contraception, such as a condom breaking or slipping off. It reduces the risk by 89% if taken within 5 days of unprotected sex. So what is this? It is Plan B. Okay, Plan B is emergency contraception. No prescription is needed. 1 in 4 women, or anywhere from 20 to 24% of women, use Plan B. And when I mention that number, I'm talking about the general population. Approximately 15% of college-age females and 1 in 9 sexually active women who are over college age have used emergency contraception. Birth control methods that use the signs of cyclic fertility to prevent or plan conception. We are talking about fertility awareness method. It is a natural family planning method, also referred to as the calendar method, rhythm method, and it simply requires that you count the woman's safe days based on her menstrual cycle And that's how couples avoid untimely pregnancies. A surgical sterilization procedure in which each vas deferens is cut and tied shut to stop the passage of sperm to the urethra for ejaculation. This is an illustration of what that procedure is, which is a vasectomy. A birth control method based on body temperature changes before and after ovulation. This is basal body temperature. Basal body temperature method determines the safe days based on a person's body or a female's body temperature. You have to have a specialized thermometer because the difference in body temperature that indicates safe times to have sex, whether you're trying to get pregnant or avoid pregnancy, you need a specialized thermometer in order to get that correct reading, because the difference is very, very slight. Okay. The inability to conceive a child is referred to as infertility, and it's the failure to conceive after 1 year of unprotected sex. This affects 1 in 6 US couples. It is more common in women after the age of 35. The causes of infertility for men include poor quality sperm, retrograde ejaculation, which I encourage you to look that up, and smoking. There are many options for couples that, or even single females that make this decision, but that would be artificial insemination, in vitro fertilization, adoption, or choosing to remain child-free. The extra credit question, which will be worth 7 points, is based on the documentary American Circumcision. So please make sure that you do watch it and take notes when you watch it. You will have a discussion on this, so you will be fresh on this material by the time you get to your quiz. So good luck on your quiz, and I will be in my office next week if you have any questions or need anything from me. Have a great night.